Food is deeply intertwined into our identities as humans. It's a part of ceremonial practices. Foods are deeply tied to religion and ritual. Foods are part of our cultural identity, you know, how to prepare certain things and which foods are good to eat and which foods are not. My name is Aurora Allshouse. I am a PhD candidate in the archaeology program, Department of Anthropology at Harvard. I use scientific methods to answer archaeological questions about the deep human past. So my dissertation is focused on trying to better understand what human diet looked like in this sort of interesting period of the Bronze Age, which is a point where people are living in an agricultural system. They're growing their own food, they're raising their own livestock, but it's also not so far removed from the more recent past when almost all humans were hunter-gatherers. How can we, without the voices of the people themselves, learn about the average person's life, you know, and that's where archaeology sort of steps in. In order to understand diet, we're using a number of different methods to try to reconstruct diet at the individual level, so person to person, so that we can then use that to sort of compare what differences do we see within a single society or even within a single cemetery. Are there people who are consuming radically different diets from one another? So stable isotope analysis is one of the scientific methods we use to get at the sort of the invisible remains of the past. The easiest way to explain it is just you are what you eat, right? And different foods have different isotopic ratios. The isotopic ratios in your tissues will be some combination of that of the foods that you've eaten. What I found that was really interesting in the Greek Bronze Age is there are 4 very different sort of dietary clusters that we identified when we used a machine learning technology called cluster analysis. And when we do that, we find that there are like 4 clusters of people who are eating drastically different diets from one another, but some of them are found in the same burial context. And I don't even just mean in the same cemetery, but buried in the same tomb as one another. So that's really interesting to me because that suggests it's not that people are consuming, you know, very different diets because of a lack of access necessarily, although that might sometimes be the case, or because of any kind of environmental constraints. What you see is there's something cultural that has to be creating this separation. The biggest thing I hope for people to take away from my work is that humans are humans, and they have been consistently. At the end of the day, people are worried about the same things, putting bread on their tables, you know, raising their families, stuff like that. I hope that when people read this work and learn a little bit about the people from the past that I'm studying, they can feel some connection to that past and some understanding and sort of solidarity with the people who've lived thousands of years before us.